exercise then is the axial elongation or chin tucks. I think there's aren't any other names for this one. So what you'll notice is that Matt, as he's starting here, is already flexed up at his cervical spine from his thorax. And so really this pillow is much too aggressive for him to be doing this unless we're trying to work on flexion. Most of the time we're not. And in particular for this exercise, we should have either a flat pillow or no pillow. So if he's got no pillow, he actually looks okay with this as long as he doesn't have any irritation at the neck where we would need to fill that in. We could also use a flatter pillow, like so, where you can see his head is basically even now, or face is basically even with the ground. So for purposes of the video, so you can see better, we're going to do it like this. So what we don't want people to do is just do a chin tuck where they're nodding their head up and down. Because, and can you see all the way down to his trunk?
Yep.
Don't look at it, just like you were doing before, like that. Because what happens is, he's robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? So if he's doing it, you never heard that, robbing Peter to pay Paul? Okay, as in, you're taking money from one area and giving to someone else, and this area is now dysfunctional and deficit as well. So we don't want the trunk to do anything. All we want is the head and chin to be moving for the cervical spine stability. We don't want this to drop down at the expense of the trunk coming up, okay? So this is inaccurate. When we're telling people to do an axial elongation, you can very gently and tell them, I'm going to pull on the top of your hair here, because this is what we want to do. We want to create length, and use your finger on the back side. We want to create length all through the back of your neck, like so. What you'll notice, patient, is that we're pulling down and we're closing the front. Now, we're not closing the front and lifting the chest up, because that's inaccurate, but what we're just doing is a tiny motion right there to open up the back side of the neck to allow the nerves to release and to get the front of the neck strong so it's balanced front side to back side. Because most of us hang out like this all day long. These muscles get very stretched out, these muscles get very squished, so we're literally trying to create the opposite motion of that. So I'm going to very gently pull on the top of your hair to lengthen out the back side, and then get you to shorten this part down here. The next thing that we want to do is, once we've got that position, now we want to add resistance. So we want to add resistance by putting a finger here. So our patients typically can use their one thumb or two thumbs. The problem is, though, when the patients add their thumbs to it, they often do that and tuck down too much and let the shoulders roll up and forward, which is basically doing the opposite of what we've just been working with them before the handoff. Okay? So what we want to do instead is teach them the appropriate amount of resistance. So gently tuck your chin down, open up the back side of the neck. Right there, I'm going to give you some resistance, and I'm trying to move my fingers up through your head that direction. Don't let your face move. And there, you can see he's got a little bit of a shake going on because the right muscles that we're supposed to be activating have finally figured out, oh, you mean me. Okay, got it. I'll activate. And we're going through what we call a phasic shake. I won't go through more of that term, but just so you know that that's what it's called. So, patient, this is the amount of resistance that you should be using. So let's have you create that on your own. You can even just use one hand if you'd like. Typically, if they've got a shoulder dysfunction, you have them use the opposite hand for starting out with until they feel strong enough that they can do it with the other hand. There we go, and release. The other way that you can do this exercise is to go segment by segment by segment. So if we start up at the cranium, that's 0. We go C1, or cervical 1, cervical 2, cervical 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way down to here. And I can take my finger and try and lift up, say at C5 here, and make that vertebrae lift up towards the ceiling or forward through their body, right? And in so doing that, I'm telling that vertebrae with the muscles attached to it, don't let me move you. So I'm not going to try and create motion as in that's not my goal. I'm trying to create motion, tiny, tiny bit, like a millimeter of motion, so that his body senses something's moving, I'm supposed to stabilize. Because this then is a stabilization exercise, right? So my finger right here, hold here, I'm trying to push this vertebrae through your Adam's apple, don't let me. And you can see he's doing a pretty nice job of stabilizing. If he's not doing a nice job of stabilizing, it looks like this. Hold, don't let me move you. And it's moving up like so. That means there's no muscle contraction, that means there's not very good stabilization, and even if he's doing his chin tucks with axial elongation, his brain is skipping that portion of his neck. So we really want to be cognizant of if somebody has one spot, ask the therapist when you're doing the handoff. If he's doing axial elongation, is there a certain segment you want me to facilitate? This is the facilitation. Okay? Very nice.